How's it going, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and I'm back with another device that you've seen on the site for a couple of weeks now, but here's the kicker. I've had this one for a couple of weeks, and the embargo is just lifting. Here's the AT&T version of the HTC One X, and you can see in terms of design, no real differences here between this and the global version. Obviously, this is the white one as opposed to the black, or the gray one, rather, that I was reviewing on the international side. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Let's go ahead and unlock this and get in here, and let's turn on the brightness, rather. Let's get this brightness kicked up so we can have this review and you can actually see it in the camera. So this is a review of the AT&T version of the HTC One X, and obviously with it coming to the US, there are some processor and LTE differences as well. First of all, 1.5 gigahertz dual-core Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 processor here, as opposed to that quad-core NVIDIA Tegra 3 CPU that we saw in the international version. That said, AT&T's version, as you can see up here, 4G LTE capable, so you can see it's an LTE device that's still incredibly thin and packs the same 1,800 milliamp hour battery that the international version packs. So 4G LTE support, and of course a bunch of AT&T stuff as well. You can see out of the box you get AT&T Code Scanner, Family Map, Navigator, ready to go, Amazon Kindle, you've got Google Plus integration here, and then Google Plus Messenger, you've got Live TV, My AT&T, and then you got the personalization button there, as you can see. Emoji Music, though, pre-installed, along with YP Mobile. Now, the benefit here, AT&T allows most of this to be uninstalled. So I can come out here and say uninstall YP Mobile, for example, and that's a nice little shortcut that you can do in Ice Cream Sandwich and HTC Sense 4. So theoretically, YP Mobile should be gone unless I just uninstalled the update. Let's go ahead and back in here and take a look at the settings and go into software, go into applications, not app associations. Let's go back here and go to apps, and you can see the downloaded applications. So we'll go to Navigator, for example. We don't want Navigator. We're going to force stop it. We're going to uninstall the updates. It should allow me to uninstall this AT&T stuff. Let's take a look here, because maybe it doesn't. All that AT&T stuff in the past has been able to be uninstalled. So let's take a look here and see if it can or can't, because this could be an interesting change on the Android 4.0 side. So uninstall updates. It's allowing me to uninstall a lot of these updates, but it looks like a lot of this stuff, for whatever reason, this AT&T stuff is staying on. So hopefully in a future software version, they'll allow us to remove it, which is odd because AT&T's done a good job lately of listening to their customers and allowing them to uninstall stuff. But it looks like on the One X, at least the retail version here, out of the gate, you're going to have to keep the AT&T stuff on. So I stand corrected there. But you can see the same look and feel here with the nice little notification changes here. You can see the carousel effect, back and forth. And we'll go back home, and obviously just to give you a quick recap here, back home and then your recent applications. No real changes here from previous versions. Recent apps there, and I can obviously swipe up to remove those and swipe from side to side. You see up in the top here the AT&T network identifier, and that stays up there as part of AT&T's plan. We've seen this on some of the recent high-end Android devices on AT&T. So that's obviously there, and then you have some other minor changes, but outside of that, the hardware and the software are mostly the same, with the exception of some internal differences. And on that note, let's thank Best Buy Mobile for hooking us up with phones like this for use in our One Paw Bandit game that we give to you on the site, and in several different contests, and not just One Paw Bandit, but on Facebook and on Twitter as well. So when you walk into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your web, your contacts, your TweetDeck settings, for example. All that ice cream sandwich nitty-gritty applications and settings and things like that will all be set up by Best Buy Mobile as part of the Walkout Working program. So special thanks to them. But let's take a look at speed test here and see what AT&T's LTE has to offer in the Charlotte metro area. So I don't want to spoil it there, but I'll show you some of the ones that we've done recently in just a second. So Charlotte metro area pretty consistently between about 6 and 10 megabits per second, with upload speeds between like 3 and about 7 to 8 depending on the time of day, but still relatively impressive. We're actually getting a pretty decent speed right now, 8.2 megabits per second. Nothing crazy like I've seen in some recent markets like New York, Chicago, places like that where we're seeing these 25, 30 megabit per second bursts. Haven't seen those in Charlotte, but still a really respectable 10 megabit per second, almost 11 megabit per second upload speed, and 8.3 megabits per second on the download. So very impressive on both fronts there. So you got that feature and the LTE feature pre-installed. Although the battery, I will say, is a little bit less as a result of the LTE. With moderate use, I can make it about 9 to 10 hours with this device before it requires a recharge. Now, I will say it charges pretty fast, and the standby time on this device is exceptional. HTC's done a really good job with making standby pretty impressive. But the other thing you want to see is quadrant standard, because obviously this one's packing the dual-core Snapdragon S4 processor, whereas the international version was packing the quad-core NVIDIA Tegra 3 processor. So let's take a look here and see. Call quality still very good over here. The earpiece is nice and loud. Like I said, battery life a little bit worse than the global version just because it has LTE support, and the battery life, or the battery milliamp hour count, is still the same on this version of the One X despite having an LTE radio. But it's amazing that they were able to keep it this thin with an LTE radio and pack the same awesome features, the burst camera, 8 megapixel burst camera, but you can really just see how smoothly it runs. And I'll be totally honest with you, I've been a critic in the past of the Snapdragon S3 processor. It's laggy from time to time. You know, we see this in some of the recent high-end devices. Galaxy Note, the Skyrocket, a couple of the other devices on the market. I shouldn't say a couple, quite a few devices. But it's laggy from time to time, kind of stutters every now and again. The S4 has been incredibly impressive, and you're going to see that in the speed test here. I mean, it's moving through everything incredibly fast. And, you know, obviously quadrant standard, take it with a grain of salt, but I've been really impressed with the speeds all throughout. So it's definitely a good contender. 5,039 here on quadrant standard. So 5,039 on the AT&T HTC One X, which is right in line with what we've seen from the global One X with the quad-core Tegra 3 processor. So all in all, a pretty respectable device. This is coming to AT&T on May 6th for $199.99. Just for fun, let's go ahead and go to phonedog.com. Take a look here. Phonedog.com, and I have Swift key pre-installed here. Phonedog. It's not wanting to cooperate. Phonedog. Let's try this the 87th time. Phonedog.com. There we go. And you can see LTE making it load nice and fast. Transition effects. Really responsive here, but obviously no difference between the Sense 4 version on the global version and then on the AT&T version. Pinch to zoom, still very responsive. Snapdragon S4 processor running really well on this device. So much like the One S, it's definitely a viable contender to the quad-core NVIDIA Tegra 3 version of the HTC One X. Like I said, coming soon to AT&T May 6th for $199.99, but this is the AT&T version, and we're going to have a bunch of dogfights between it and a lot of the other hot smartphones on the market, so stay tuned to phonedog.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook, facebook.com/phonedog, and on Google Plus at gplus.to/phonedog. Hit me up on Twitter as well, phonedog_Aaron, and on Facebook at facebook.com/phonedogab. Thanks for watching. Much more to come on AT&T's version of the awesome HTC One X on phonedog.com.